I
Mm.
love writing. I could write for free. Well, I did that for a lot of years. It's it just gives me a freedom just to sit here and just write and just because you could put down anything, and I have all creative control, and it just flows out of me. And of course, I have to edit some of the stuff before I bring it to the public. But it feels good just to get it all out.
Mm. Now, in the beginning, I was talking about how, as a entrepreneur, you have to be passionate, of course, and it sounds like you're very passionate about writing, but you have to figure out how you could conquer your passion and earn an income at it, and keep increasing as times went along because of the time frame to get paid, what you like to do, and you want to keep doing it. So how do you, how did you recognize your struggles along the way, and how hard was it to overcome the new challenges that you had to keep taking on as a business owner to be a writer?
Um, the main thing that I recognized right away was when I started pitching articles. You get a lot of rejection letters, and they come one after the other after the other. I'm like, okay, we're gonna have to do something else till we get to an acceptance letter. So what I did was I started writing a book, which is Angels in Action. And the idea that I got from that was the struggle. I said, okay, the book is about faith, hope, and belief. How to use those things to turn your setbacks into setups for success. So the stories that I started getting accepted by the magazines, and I said, oh, these are great. People like these inspirational stories. So then I said I will just recycle it into a book, and that's what I did. I started that book, and so I sold the book, and I also am working on my second book, as we mentioned earlier, The Invisible Child. Things flowing to keep things moving at all times. And every
Mm.
now and then I do some tutoring also and some speaking. I do some speaking engagements. I like to do a lot more of those because that's something I just started in my repertoire. But I love speaking.
Now, who do you speak? What types of groups do you look to speak to?
The groups that I've been speaking to are caregivers. I love to speak to caregiving groups because I'm trying to get the message out to caregivers how valuable they are.
Mm.
And so I like to go out and empower them because a lot of caregivers don't feel like their jobs are that valuable, so they sort of half do it, don't want to do it. They pick that job because it's a last result, not their passion. So I like to go out and speak to the colleges that train the young ladies to be caregivers, and also the groups of caregivers that they have in the community, and the senior citizen homes, retirement homes, where there's a lot of caregivers there. I like to speak to them, and I also go speak at churches. And my message at churches is go deep, go deep, 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 because everything you need is inside of you. God gave us an inside winner, so we need to go deep and discover it so that we can win on the outside. So I enjoy doing that, and usually with that, I do a book study I to support my speaking and my studying at the churches.
Mm. I love the fact that you bring it to church. I like that, and I really do agree with you that God created us all to be superstars, and He gave us all a purpose and a story inside, and we should be sharing that with others so that they can come to recognize their own value as well. A lot of times we don't recognize our value, And when you get into situations like you have gotten in, going through your process to find a way to monetize what you love to do, most people quit because it just be easier to go get a job they're not happy with, but it pays. So I take my hat off to you for that, and I like the fact that your book, when you wrote it, helped you to recognize that you had to follow it to be successful. And it's funny how when we put things on paper, we see it a little bit differently than the woe me thing that we think about all the time. So, it's powerful. I think it's really powerful. So, Angels in Action. It's 12 stories to inspire. Okay. As you go out and you're looking at this book, what's your bigger plan with this book? What is it is there a workbook that you can make out of it? Is there programs that you can use this book for to teach people in either a Bible setting or a small group setting or a college setting? Is there even an online setting where people can purchase a book and learn as a workbook from it?
Yes, I've been. I use Angels in Action as my support for my study group, and I'm also planning on expanding it as some of the things you had mentioned about a workbook and online book, because prayer is my passion. That's my ministry, prayer. So I would like to combine that book with prayer, because the book does talk a lot about prayer, because it's 12 stories showing how I needed something and how I got that something, because I thought I couldn't get it. Because, you try everything. Like, for instance, let's see. Like, for instance, I had needed $300 more to pay my rent because I had lost my job. And I don't know if there's any of your listeners that have ever lost a job. That is one of the most humiliating experiences I've ever went through in life. And it kind of put me in a depressed mode where I didn't want to do anything but complain and be, going to my little pity party. But meanwhile, you can do all of that, but the bills still need to be paid.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they do.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. So I said, what can I do? I had the pity party for about 15, 20 days, but the bills are due on the 1st. So I only had like about five days left. And the light bulb went on. You got 5 days, enough of this pity party. And I didn't have the money. And I said, well, what am I going to do to get this money? And I did every single thing that I could possibly do, and no money came. And it's interesting that you would mention about needing a coach and a mentor. I didn't even know I needed a coach and a mentor.
Mm-hmm.
But when I called my friend who had owed me some money, he said to me, before I could even ask him for the money, he sounded sad on the telephone. So I said, well, what's the matter? He said, my mom died. I said, oh, Lord. And I'm packing to go back home to the funeral. So I said, oh, Lord, I can't ask the man for the money. He needs it himself. And he said to me to call his friend and ask his friend to pray for him. So, because she was a prayer warrior, which I really had very little knowledge of what a prayer warrior was, except for someone that prayed for people. So I called her, I told him I would, and I did, and I asked her to pray for him. And then so she says to me, Diane, what is your relationship with God? And I said, relationship with God? Oh, I had to think about that for a moment. And then I went into my pity party. I got fired and I need to get this money for my rent. How can I do this? And God probably not going to do it for me because I don't have a relationship with him. I don't even know. I know of God. And then I was feeling guilty because I would go to church when I was younger and go to sleep when they were doing the sermon. So I didn't know. And Bible study, that was nap time for me. I woke up when it was time to sing and go out and fellowship to eat, with the people in the congregation. Other than that, I didn't know what basically was going on. But this lady became my mentor, and she taught me how to have a relationship with God. She showed me things to do because she said the answer to your finances is within you. And I was like, the answer to your finances is within you. You need to be still and let God bring it out of you. And she showed me how to do that, through praying and meditating and fasting and reading scripture, things of that nature. And she told me when to do it, how to do it, and I did everything she said. And I did get that rent money right on time. And I felt like a big weight was lifted off my shoulder because I was able to conquer that setback. And then when I felt I could do that, I felt powerful, like I can do anything. And whenever I'm going through something, which I'm hoping that your listeners pick up, no matter what the situation is, I don't care if you're 100 pounds overweight and you're trying to figure out how to lose the weight, the answer is within you. And this is what you see reflected in Angels in Action throughout every single story. And at the end of every story, I give a reflection, which is the reflection is the lesson that I want you to get from the story, which the one I just shared with you is about belief. You have to believe. And in the stories, I show you how I developed my belief system. And I'm excited about that book.
I'll tell you, Diane, and unfortunately we run up against the clock here in time in these interviews, but I'll tell you something that I know for sure. What you're saying is true. I've experienced it myself, and unfortunately a lot of us out there like to have proof before we take a step in that direction. But fortunately, God has a funny sense of humor and put you there without no choices, and you had to be desperate enough to try it, and now you're able to spread it. So that is awesome. And I think that I made a note. The answer the answers are within you. I am going to use that in my newsletter as a quote because I think that just says it right there. Whatever you want to do, the answers are within you. And if you don't choose to take action on that, well, then the answer is still going to be within you, but you're not going to have any results. You're not going to see the proof. So if you're willing to take a shot on yourself and find out how you can do it, or talk to someone like you did, it's just funny how they show up in your life. And what's even funnier and unexplainable is how your finances showed up on time at the last minute. So there's the proof that you needed to keep moving forward. So I just want people to know it doesn't always happen on the first try, so don't be willing to give up quickly. Just be willing to have faith in yourself that you're doing what you're supposed to do. Diane, I want to let everyone know how they can find you, contact you, hire you to come out and speak to them, purchase your book, give them all the information.
Okay. Please visit my blog, mindofagoddess.wordpress.com. And that's mine, MindOfAGoddess, mindofagoddess.wordpress.com. And I'm also on Twitter, Mind of a Goddess at Twitter. And for speaking engagements, or you want personal prayer or coaching, email me at writerworks@gmail.com. And my book, Angels in Action, is on Amazon.com.
Well, I really appreciate your time here, and I'm super excited about the next book coming out. I hope that you'll come back. I'd like to get you on one of my other show, Tough Talk Christian Radio, on Thursday mornings, talk about your new book coming out.